please join me in welcoming the film's producers, Tyler Hagen and Julia Rosenberg.
Good evening. We'd like to welcome you all to the world premiere of Meadowlarks. We're really honored to be premiering at TIFF, which we think is the most magical festival in the world. And we want to extend our thanks to Kelly and Jason and Cameron and Anita. I'd also like to thank some of our financiers, starting with Telefilm Canada, specifically Marinez, James, and Deb, Crave, Natalie, and Paul, Ontario Creates, Aaron, Anna, and Karen, and last but not least, CBC Films and the spectacular Gosha.
Tenchi Giyawao, Dishnakashun, Tyler Hagen. Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Hagen. I am Métis and settler Canadian. And it's, my immense pleasure to be here with you to celebrate the premiere of this film. I would also like to thank some more of our incredible financiers who made this film possible. The Indigenous Screen Office, Carrie, Christy, and the entire team, Creative BC, Prem and her team, and the CMF, Valerie, and everybody at the CMF. We're just incredibly thrilled, and we really hope that you love this film. And it is my great pleasure to welcome Tasha Hubbard, the director.
Oh, good evening. Oh, you just made me happy. I'm just so thrilled to be here with this film to share with you tonight. I can't wait. There's so many beautiful crew and cast in the audience. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about you a lot at the Q&A after. In the meantime, I'd like to invite our incredible cast. Come on, if everyone can come together, yeah. Come on out. So, with me here is Michelle Thrush, Alex Rice, Michael Greyeyes, and Carmen Moore. We also have the lovely Betty Ann Adam, who's our executive producer and also one of the original siblings from the documentary Birth of a Family that the film is based on. I'd also, we included youth a lot in our film, and my nephew Oskiya Tootoosis has an important role, a small role, but important role that you'll see at the end of the film. And my son, Duquette, who worked on the film, and Lorne Duquette, who is, there's 4 siblings plus 1. He's the 5th sibling. The reason I asked Kwana and Oskiya to come out is when they were little babies, Oskiya's mom and I watched Harper make an apology. And it was a big thing for us because both of our fathers went to residential school, and we'd both had experience in the child welfare and child care system. And we were crying our eyes out because these boys were the first to be raised by their parents. And this is, the background of this story. It's not a history lesson. This is a beautiful family drama with these beautiful people bringing their hearts. And I can't wait for you to see it. So thank you so much.
Thank you all, and stick around for the Q&A after.
Yes.
I am going to start out by asking a few questions, and then happy to turn it over to the audience questions. And I will repeat it because this is a very large house, so everyone else can hear. But I'd love to start out by asking, this is such an emotional and touching tribute to the adults who survived the 60s scoop. Tell us why you told their stories in this way. I'm not supposed to be emotional.
I know, I was sitting there, I'm like, is it okay to cry at your own movie? I think there's a lot of grief in the room here tonight, as well as the love, and we always have that balance, I think. And the reality is that this is a story that has affected so many, the survivors first and foremost, but also their families, their parents, and their children, and their grandchildren. And, I just want to say how honored I am that Betty Ann Adam and her siblings, Esther and Ben and dear late Rose, and that story had power, and it stayed with people, and that's what made us realize we needed to tell this story in a different way that it can continue. And the people that I met over the years who have been through this experience, family and friends and partners and just people I would meet. When you've been through this, you meet people all the time who've been through the same thing, and we'd share our stories. And I just thought, we can expand it and tell other layers of this story through these 4 and 5 fictional siblings. So, I'm just so thankful that you're all here and with us on this very special night for us. We became a family. I know that doesn't always happen, and I think people say it a lot, but it really was the case for us. We really did feel that way. So thank you.
And the 4 of you did such a beautiful job. Yeah. How did you all approach these characters who are at varying levels of reconnection after such a harrowing disconnection?
Who wants to tackle that one?
I gave you the easy one, Carmen. It could be anyone.
Oh, gosh. We haven't seen a lot of stories about the 60s scoop. I feel like I'm a broken record right now, but we've in Indigenous cinema, we've seen residential school, we've seen life on the res, but there are still so many people out there that don't know this part of Canada's history. And when I first read the script, I jumped on board because I thought, I want to be a part of not just educating people, but of telling this beautiful and important story. I grew up away from my Indigenous family. My mom's white, my dad's Native. I didn't have a lot of connection to any part of that, any part of me. So I related to this character in the sense that I always felt like something was missing, that I didn't have my language, I didn't have my culture, I didn't have tradition, I didn't have that part of my family. So it was that. Take it.
I'm really fortunate, that I was surrounded by such brilliant performers. I think, Michelle and we did the Res Sisters ages ago in London. So, we had that incredible, history. Alex and I performed, 25 years ago in a couple of different films, and we haven't worked together since. And this is our first project, Carmen and I. So there was an interesting mix of I know these 2 women, really well, and we've been in and out of each other's lives. And then there was a new sister performer friend. And so, as an actor, you sort of just lean into, the kind of truth that lives with you on the set. So in the case of Marianne and Anthony, there was like a particularly, tangible kind of relationship. And it was like crucial that, Alex and I are such close friends that we were able to build on that. And yet some of the awkwardness that we had as siblings on screen, that was present, because we'd never been in a show together. So I think there was happy accidents and history sort of built into it for me.
Can you repeat the question?
I don't even know anymore.
I had a great time. It was a wonderful film, and I love everybody on stage. That's what I'm going to say.
What was it like acting together with everyone?
Oh,
and siblings.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
no, it was lovely. I mean, everybody here is so kind and so good, and we had so much fun when the camera wasn't even rolling. And there's so much trust amongst us. Like, I truly, honestly, and I know in this business, I love you, right? Because, we do feel a lot with each other, but I can truly, honestly say from the bottom of my heart that I love everybody on this stage. And I was watching the film, and I was like thinking about all the memories and the house, how much time we spent in that damn house. And just, it was like we were caught in this little bubble up on top of a mountain, and we just really had a good time.
When I first,
Sorry. She doesn't really have an accent.
just Mohawk. Sego's gonna go on, Gawizahawe Yojats. Hello everyone, my name is Gawizahawe. My Mohawk name is Gawizahawe, my real name is Alex Rice. I am from Ganawagi, and I am Ganyakgehaga of the Haudenosaunee people. I have never lived in Belgium. I don't even like the waffles. When I first got the script, it was to audition for the film, and I was originally to audition for the role of Connie. And when I read the script the afternoon in preparation for my audition, I cried all the way through the whole thing. And I know what the 60s scoop is. I have friends who were victims of it. But here I was learning all these things that you don't think about, like the fact that these people don't have common memories. They don't have anything in common but the DNA at this point. And here they have to try and connect. And how do you do that? And I'm looking at the script, and there's like 4 people, and it's like they're wrapped in cellophane. They can't reach out. They don't know how to go about it. And for me, I identified with Marianne because Marianne's a very high masking person, in my opinion. She put on a facade to blend in Belgium, to live with a family where no one looked like her. She was desperate to find somebody who looked like her, and desperate to find a family. I was very lonely. I grew up, I was an only child, and I'm also a very high masking woman. 9 months before I got the script, I was diagnosed with level 1 autism spectrum disorder. I lived my entire life not knowing I had this. I struggled. I didn't know why. I didn't fit in. I had a hard time in social situations. I couldn't feel part at times, even within my own family, because I was so different. I was so neurodivergent. And when I saw the character of Marianne, I could see all of that she was going through, and how she pushed herself to run to make herself acceptable to people, to make herself something that people would want, and not even knowing who she really was. And then finding out that she was Indigenous, and then trying to find what does that mean, and trying to live her authentic self. And when I got my diagnosis, which was 9 months before, that's what I was grappling with. I was like, I've lived my whole life trying to be something that I'm not, so that I could be accepted. And so I had so much in common. I was so grateful to get to use all of that and to process all the grief that I had through the parallel with Marianne. And the accent was really a challenge that I'm so glad I got to do. It was so interesting, but I got the opportunity to experience what it would be like to have siblings, and on and off screen. And they're all wonderful people, and they were so kind with me and supportive, and Tasha and everybody on the crew who knew that I was neurodivergent supported me through this. But I felt it was important that I identify myself as neurodivergent because that's who I really am. And just like Marianne, she wants to find out who she really is, who she really was supposed to be.
And a question for Betty Ann and for Tasha. How did you take the story, which is essentially yours, Betty Ann, and take elements, and what did you decide to keep? What did you decide to change? If you could talk about that process.
I'll go start. Okay. Well, you know, I've known Betty Ann for a long time, and we started talking about doing this project for the documentary in 10 years ago. And, you know, it was just such a beautiful story. And we definitely, you know, when producers, Julia and Tyler, so amazing. When Julia saw the film and thought, you know, suggested this could be a drama. Have you ever thought about it? Thought about directing? I'm like, yes, I have. And a little bit scared. And, you know, what were the possibilities? And, you know, and I said, well, I need to talk to Betty Ann first and the family. And they were so supportive. And I said, I really want to explore that spectrum of experience, you know, the Georges of the world. And that actually came about. We originally only had the 4, and then Betty Ann led a focus group with 60 Scoop survivors to read the script and give us feedback. And one of the things they came back with was, it's too clean. We've all lost someone, whether it's to addiction or they've left this world too soon, or they've just cut themselves off because it's so much. And we wanted to honor that experience of, you know, and that's through the character of George. But we also, wanted to sort of keep it. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is like, which one are you? Which one is Betty Ann? Which one is, and it's like, no. You know, they're really like these beautiful composite characters. And I think we can see ourselves in them because, you know, we all kind of carry those coping mechanisms to get through. And I just want to share something. You know, the lines that Anthony has about what you do to survive when you're in that situation. And for those of us that were in communities where we were one of a handful of Indigenous, or sometimes the only Indigenous person in our communities, you know, we didn't feel safe. We didn't feel secure. And we did what we could to try and take care of that part of ourselves that our adoptive families and foster families either didn't understand or didn't care about. And, you know, the scene of Marianne putting on her earrings, that was me for like my 20s. I couldn't be visible. I didn't feel worthy. And I just want to say, you know, normally I would not call attention to what I'm wearing, but I want to call attention to what I'm wearing because I had to think about it. What am I going to wear here? What am I going to put, you know? And I'm like, I spent so much of my young years hiding and out of a fear. And I'm like, I really want to not hide. And I'm just so thankful for the people who made this for me from scratch. Literally, like everything is new, is handmade and new, and I'm so grateful because I think that's what I want people who've gone through this experience to be seen for their experience, to be seen for what they've survived, to be seen for their courage, and to be seen as little kids who just want to be in a family, want to love each other. Yeah.
Do you have a different question? Because Tasha answered that so thoroughly and completely.
I was supposed to come up with one on the spot.
Okay. Let's see. So the question was sort of how we came about taking my life experience and kind of morphing it into something else. And it was so wonderful that Tasha made the film originally with Birth of a Family, the documentary about my experience with my siblings. And she was so respectful to that. And so I think that in many ways it was very clean because there were only 4 of us, it was a really joyful film. But we both knew that the 60 Scoop experience has so much complications, so much pain, and the experiences of the 20,000 Indigenous children who were taken from their families and plucked out of their Indigenous families and planted in white context. We knew that those 20,000 children had a vast array of experience. And so for Tasha to have this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity brought by Julie and Tyler to expand on that and say there's, Birth of a Family is a very joyful film. There's some moments of tears, but it's happy. The 4 of us are together. It was great, and there's lots of laughs. But we knew that there's the dark side that really wasn't explored there. And that's what makes this one difficult, because it's real. Those things there's a lot of pain, and like Tasha said, there are many 60 Scoop kids who can't come back. They're not able to do that. And I think one of the things I've been wanting to talk about a little bit is the fact that 60 Scoop people, some of us were raised in families where we were made part of the family, and we continued to be part of those families even after we aged out and they no longer had a legal responsibility to us. We maintained those relationships, and for those of us for whom that happened, it was a wonderful thing. But there are many, many people who lived in home after home after home, so that as soon as they turned 18, the checks stopped coming and they were out. And then they were adults, and they had no one to back them up. They didn't know who their parents were. They didn't know who their aunties and uncles were. And so they walk alone. There are so many 60 Scoop people who, at Christmas time, they didn't have anyone to go to. They didn't have anyone inviting them. They didn't have aunties and uncles. And when they had children, their children didn't have grandparents. And their children didn't have aunties and uncles and cousins. And so I think that that's one of the things that, it's wonderful and glorious when we do get together, when we do find our way home. And we've so many of us have been lucky to have our home communities welcome us back, and our relations. And so many Indigenous people are like that, right? I was shocked growing up in a white context and always feeling so other when I was around Indigenous people, and when I found my cousins and they called me cousin and they accepted me in warmly, and it was so heartwarming and hard to believe, to go to my reserve where they spoke another language, it was like going to another country, and it was wonderful. And my message to 60 Scoop people who are still out there is come home. We want you. We never forgot you. A dear friend of mine is here tonight. She's a 60 Scoopie. She's the godmother of my daughter. And she's one of my dearest friends. And she knows that she's like the rest of us. We're searching for family. We're searching for love. And we're happy when we can make it happen.